Evening, everyone, and welcome. We appreciate you logging in to be part of tonight's discussion. For those of you that I have not had the pleasure of meeting yet, my name is Robert Sawyer, and I'm proud to serve as the city manager here in the City of El Centro. We organize a virtual gathering to have an open, honest conversation about the city's finances. Our goal today is to walk you through the budget process, explain how your tax dollars are utilized in the City of El Centro, and discuss the realities of funding the services of our community and the community relies on. Civic engagement is vital to our success, so we're eager to hear your thoughts and answer your questions later in the program. Please do not hesitate to speak up when we get to the question and answer section later on. Thank you again for being here and for your continued dedication to the City of El Centro. Just for a few quick housekeeping items before we begin. Tonight's webinar is being recorded for folks who cannot make it live. As attendees, your cameras and microphones are turned off, but we still value your participation. Please drop your questions into the Zoom question and answer box at the bottom of your screen at any time during the presentation. We will wrap up right at 6:30 p.m. If time runs out before we get to your question, we encourage you to email us at publicinfo@cityofelcentro.org. That email address will be dropped into the comment screen here on the Zoom message, so you don't have to write it down now and you can refer to it at a later time. This will allow us to respond very quickly and directly to your questions. Keep in mind that we might group similar questions together to cover as much ground as possible. The full video will be available on the city's website and YouTube channel. As for your agenda, next slide, please. We'll start by reviewing how the budget is built, dive into our current financial snapshot, and look at the role of sales tax. After that, we'll highlight some of the major projects and discuss financial hurdles facing the City of El Centro in the future. So tonight, during our budget cycle review, let's start with the El Centro and how it actually builds its spending plan. Next slide, please. The city operates on a fiscal year that runs from July 1st and ends June 30th of the following year. Each June, the City Council adopts the annual operating budget, ensuring that the spending plan is in place before the fiscal year begins. This process begins months earlier in December, when the city manager provides goals and directives to each of the department heads. The finance department then works with each of the city departments to build budgets that align with these goals, outline expected costs, service needs, and major project requests for the upcoming year. Throughout the year, the city closely tracks revenues and spending. Finance staff review the performance monthly and quarterly. In February, the City Council conducts a formal mid-year review at a public meeting to evaluate the city's fiscal health and adjust needs as necessary. As the new budgets take shape in the spring, the city manager and finance director will work to refine the draft budget before bringing it to City Council. The process concludes in June with the City Council's final review and adoption of the budget, setting the financial and operational course for the upcoming year. We'll now move into our current general budget, which sits at a little less than $50 million. This is the engine that keeps all municipal departments running, from police to fire, public works, the library, and all of city administration. We manage these dollars through different buckets or funds, which have strict rules on how they can be spent. Next slide, please. You'll notice that we have $51.9 million in capital expenditures for fiscal year 2026. We've allocated roughly $51.8 million toward one-time major investments for our infrastructure, roads, and public facilities. $49.7 million represents our general fund, which is what we'll be focusing on tonight. This relies on property tax, sales tax, and Measure P for day-to-day vital services like public safety, park maintenance, and quality of life programs. In addition, we have $34.7 million in enterprise funds. These are strictly funded by utility fees and legally are restricted to run our water and wastewater and solid waste systems within the city. Currently, we have Measure P, which accounts for approximately $15 million in sales tax revenue. This is our locally controlled transaction and use tax. Approved by voters, it is dedicated to essential infrastructure, community spaces, and public facilities. We have $11.2 million in other. This category captures various small and restricted funding streams, such as state and federal grants and gas taxes. These must be directed toward very specific operational uses and are not discretionary. As you can see, the funds in the gray lock are restricted in they can be used by members of the city and the public. While these funds with the blue lock pay for public safety, parks and recreation, public works, and community development. Measure P is locked somewhat as restricted, which is why they both blue and gray colors appear. We'll dive deeper into Measure P in the next few slides. So what is Measure P and how did it become? Measure P is a half-cent local sales tax that was approved by voters in 2016 to fund major capital improvements and vital city facilities in the city of El Centro. It has funded the El Centro Public Library, the El Centro Police Station, Buena Vista Park, Buckland Park renovations, Swarthout Park field conversions, new public safety vehicles, and much more. The $15 million in Measure P funds for fiscal year 2026 can be used to build and upgrade essential infrastructure, community spaces, and public safety equipment. Here are some examples of infrastructure projects supported by Measure P funds. Starkfield Playground in 2019, a new playground at Starkfield was purchased using Measure P funds in the amount of $150,000. Buckland Park Phase 1 and 2 improvements in 2018 and 2019. New monument signs replaced, new trash enclosures, renovation of the Ramadas, renovation of restrooms off Aurora, new benches, picnic tables, and playground resurfacing. The new challenge course was partially funded by Measure P, and that's located off of Aurora Avenue. First Responders Park in 2019 and 2020 is a new 3-acre park completed in 2020 that's located immediately south of Fire Station 3. The park features 2 playgrounds and has 2 to 5 year and 5 to 12 year playground exercise equipment. Grass, picnic tables, ramadas, lighting, fabric shades, drinking fountain, and lush landscape with the parking lot also are included in this particular park, along with first responder wall dedicated to address and acknowledge our first responders in the city of El Centro and countywide. So for key completed projects, I'll take it from here to highlight what we've been able to build with your tax dollars. Over the last few years, we've delivered several transformative projects in the city of El Centro. First, back in November of 2022, we opened the doors to the new state-of-the-art El Centro Public Library. Spanning nearly 20,000 square feet, this facility provides modern, welcoming space for learning and community engagement. It has become the cornerstone for families, students, and seniors alike. Because this space is so highly utilized, we are continuing to invest in it. In fact, for our fiscal 2026 budget, we've included additional funds to install new parking lot shade structures to address the heat here in the summer. This ensures the facility remains comfortable and accessible year-round, and the library is supported by Measure P tax revenues. Next, we have Buckland Park, renovated in September of 2022 to feature a new adolescent-focused challenge course, upgraded seating, and improved ADA accessibility. El Centro's 20-acre Buckland Park serves as an important modernizing community hub that promotes outdoor recreation and wellness for residents of all ages. We've also made major investments in outdoor spaces. In May of 2025, El Centro hosted a ribbon-cutting ceremony for the highly anticipated Buena Vista Park. If you haven't been there yet, this is a vibrant new community space. It was designed specifically for play, relaxation, and connection. Finding safe, beautiful outdoor space is critical to our residents' quality of life. The development of this park was funded through a highly successful combination of local Measure P funds and a grant from the California Climate Investment Urban Greening Program, leveraging our sales tax revenues with grant funding. Finally, the public safety infrastructure is critical to a growing city. Just this past December, the El Centro Police Department officially opened its doors to the public at its brand new headquarters on Main Street. This isn't just a new office. The building includes advanced technological hubs that allow our officers to respond much more efficiently and effectively to local needs. It ensures faster, more reliable protection for every single neighborhood in the city of El Centro. This facility is also supported by Measure P tax revenues alongside dedicated police bonds. These accomplishments show what happens when we invest locally. But as we look to the future, we have to talk about how we've maintained this momentum. So let's take a closer look at sales tax, which is the backbone of our general fund. We are projecting $18 million in sales tax revenue for fiscal year 2026. However, while those numbers are technically going up, momentum has slowed dramatically due to a broader economic shift affecting how consumers spend. To give you an idea, in fiscal year 2024, our sales tax revenue jumped by nearly $786,000. Now, for fiscal year 2026, we only expect an increase of about $249,900. That means our growth rate has dropped by approximately 68% in sales tax revenue. When we look at where that $18 million is generated, three main sectors do the heavy lifting. General consumer goods, coming in at number one. This category is powered by big box stores, electronics, and apparel shops that pull in visitors from all over the Imperial Valley and beyond. Autos and transportation, taking the second spot. This highlights our city's status as a regional center for car dealerships, auto parts, and service stations. Dining and food service. This rounds out the top three, supported heavily by local residents enjoying a meal out, as well as our cross-border tourism. Just a quick reminder, things like groceries, medical care, and professional services are all exempt from sales tax. So let's look to the future and see what our upcoming challenges are. As the city looks ahead, our primary focus is on maintaining these services, levels of service provided while managing limited flexibility in how our funds can be used. As I mentioned earlier, much of the city's budget is restricted to specific purposes. That limits our ability to simply shift resources around to meet any evolving needs. At the same time, we have a unique challenge. El Centro's daytime population conservatively reaches 75,000 residents and visitors. That represents an increase of nearly 69% above our residential population of approximately 45,000 people. This significant daily influx places added strain on public safety, roadways, infrastructure, traffic circulation, park use, and other essential operations that must serve far more than our official population alone would suggest. The wear and tear on our streets and the demand for our police and fire departments are continuous. So, some might ask, can't the city just use its reserve funds to pay for these daily services? And the answer is no. While El Centro currently holds about $34 million in reserves, those are savings set aside explicitly for emergency and unexpected one-time costs. Just like a household cannot rely on its savings account to pay monthly utility bills forever, these reserves are not meant to fund ongoing services like staffing fire stations or maintaining police patrols. So without additional ongoing revenue, the city will continue to face operational challenges, including delayed improvements of streets, public infrastructure, safety, and emergency response services. For example, El Centro currently has an average of 4 to 5 officers on patrol at any given time to serve a daytime population of around 75,000 residents and visitors. This represents an increase of 69.9% or 70% of our overall daily population, to put things into perspective. So, as we've seen growth in our day-to-day operations and our visitors come to the valley, what we have not seen is a growth in police services and firefighters commensurate with this increase. So, for example, we've hired 6 police officers in the last 20 years in addition to what we were 20 years ago, and 4 firefighters in the last 5 years. Additional funding is necessary to support neighborhood patrols, help protect residents and businesses, and assist in attracting and retaining qualified employees. So how do we tackle the budget constraints? To address our ongoing structural deficit and balance the budget, we've chosen between 2 main paths: generating new revenue through a local sales tax measure, or delaying improvements to streets, public safety, and emergency response services. Let's take a deeper dive in to see what each of these options would look like for our community. To ensure long-term fiscal sustainability, the city is proactively evaluating a half-cent local sales tax measure. If passed, this measure would generate approximately $8.4 million annually. By law, every penny of this stays right here in the city of El Centro It cannot be taken by the county, the state, or the federal governments. If we cannot secure ongoing funding, we face delays in services and improvements. If we are able to secure this funding, we can actively repair local streets, ensure vital paving and infrastructure maintenance is completed. And without it, we're forced to defer these needed upgrades, resulting in additional deterioration of streets and roadways. Furthermore, new revenue allows us to improve public safety through essential neighborhood safety and crime prevention programs, rather than seeing those critical initiatives stalled. In the last year, we've experienced an increase of over 40% in crimes against society when compared to the same period the prior year. Additional funding would support more neighborhood patrols and help us retain qualified officers and paramedics. Without it, response times could suffer. Next, let's look at public safety and emergency medical response. When an emergency occurs, response times matter. Currently, 73% of all 911 calls in the City of El Centro are for medical emergencies, such as heart attacks or car accidents. Adequate funding ensures our police and fire responders have the staffing and life-saving equipment necessary. Ultimately, El Centro has a track record of delivering on its commitments to voters, such as using Measure P funds to build our library and police station as promised. We undergo an independent financial audit every year, and we consistently receive clean audits. We remain committed to that exact same transparency moving forward. At this point, this concludes our presentation, and we will now be accepting questions. Mario, can you tell me if we have any questions, please?
Yes. How does the city monitor the budget to ensure responsible financial management?
Thank you. The city actively manages its budgets throughout the year. Finance staff continuously monitor all expenditures with formal reviews conducted monthly and quarterly. The city council also conducts a formal mid-year review in February, and an independent outside auditor performs a financial audit every year to ensure fairness and accuracy. Do we have any additional questions, Mario?
Yes, sorry. El Centro's budget funds the daily operations of all city departments, including police, fire, public works, and the library. It also includes funding for major capital projects, which are on-time investments in infrastructure, parks, and public facilities. Sorry, the question is, where does the city's sales tax revenue come from, and what is taxed?
I think you answered the question very eloquently. So our operating budget comes from the general fund, and that general fund, as mentioned throughout this presentation, is responsible for paying salaries, for infrastructure upgrades, and all necessary day-to-day functions of the City of El Centro, including police, fire, public works, public safety, the library, and all administration services.
Next question is, how does the budget impact local police and emergency medical responses?
So adequate funding ensures that the city can attract and retain first responders. That's always been an issue here in the Valley. It invests in neighborhood patrols to address property crimes and provide critical life-saving equipment. Currently, 73% of the El Centro 911 calls are for medical emergencies. So sufficient funding is very important. When somebody calls 911, they expect to receive the proper help in a timely fashion. And our budget is stretched thin, as we discussed earlier, with the influx of individuals visiting our valley, and specifically the City of El Centro during the day. The ebb and flow of traffic makes it very difficult for us to provide those services with the current budget.
Next question is, what are the biggest financial challenges currently facing El Centro?
That's maintaining service levels while managing rising costs. We have very limited flexibility in how our funds can be used, as we spoke about earlier. If you refer back, if you're watching this at a later time, you'll notice that the funding slide has got several locked buckets or funds. Those are funds that we can't necessarily use for the day-to-day expenses, and we rely heavily on the general fund. So as such, as our population swells during the daytime, it impacts directly all of our services. And the biggest financial challenge we have right now is maintaining the level of service we currently provide and being able to provide additional services that our community deserves.
Next question is, how can we find out what grants or specific funds are being used for the budget?
So our budget is going to be posted online. All of our budget is posted online for the public to see, but we can post a link in here at the end of this to a specific budget page that will provide some additional input on budget processes and how our funds are being spent currently.
Next question is, when would the special tax be voted on?
The vote is coming up in the month of November this year in the general election. It'll be on the ballot for the residents of the city of El Centro because it only applies to the city of El Centro. That said, I think it's important to note that it's not just El Centro residents that pay the tax. It's those individuals that utilize our services, individuals that are visiting from Yuma, Mexicali, and other areas throughout the state that come to the city of El Centro that require our infrastructure and our services. As they make purchases here, they're paying their portion of the tax as well. So it's not just on the back of El Centro residents alone.
Next question, how does city funding support local youth and quality of life?
Well, statistics show that children and teens are about 3 times more likely to get in trouble between 3 to 6 p.m. So city funding maintains and expands our after-school programs at the parks, our recreation centers, the aquatics program, our library. We provide thousands of youth with safe and supervised environments, including El Centro Pal and a bunch of other uh, partners that we have along with our current staff. So the need for that is certainly out there to keep our youth focused and out of trouble. And in order to be able to expand these programs, we need additional funding to do so.
How does El Centro ensure transparency and accountability with taxpayer dollars?
Well, first and foremost, we go through independent financial audits every year. We all have always been very good on our audits in terms of there's not findings that would represent any type of misuse or abuse. But really, I think ongoing reporting to council and the public sees what our responses are. So in 2016, when we passed Measure P, the public has had the ability to see what the Measure P dollars are on. We've stayed true to our word with building infrastructure and resources. We've constructed the library that provides a number of resources and programs to our community. We've just completed the police department, which were 2 major products outlined by Measure P. But more importantly, there's ongoing programs for all of our parks and all of our public infrastructures throughout the city as part of Measure P funds. So I believe that we've strongly delivered on that. And the independent auditing would show the same, as well as ongoing reporting to council. And then we always are open to conversations with members of our public should they have any additional questions.
Why can't we fund these road maintenance needs using our existing Measure D funds?
So Measure D is restricted. It's a regional funding source that comes from uh, local measures, and it's restricted exclusively to major construction projects that have to be executed within specific contracts. So by law, Measure D funds can't be spent on day-to-day routine maintenance or repairs of city streets, such as fixing potholes and repaving streets that are in current need.
Will there be any tax increase for hospitals? What about taxes for healthcare?
So currently there is a proposed property tax measure by the Imperial Valley Healthcare District. Again, it is a property tax, whereas the city's measure is a sales tax. Property taxes are paid exclusively by property owners based on their home values here in the city of El Centro. El Centro's proposed sales tax, on the other hand, is paid by everyone, as I mentioned earlier, who shops or dines in the city of El Centro, which means visitors from Mexicali, Yuma, San Diego, and other commuters that come through here, especially during the summer months, during the winter months for off-road and recreational purposes. It's not just borne by our local residents, it's paid by every person who participates and takes advantage of the services that we offer.
Who selects the independent auditors to review the mid-year and fiscal budget?
That is done by the finance department with approval of the city council.
Who would the city be open? Would the city be open to having an oversight committee made up of individuals from the community?
Well, when we talk oversight committee, I would have a few questions about that, but we work directly for the public. So any questions can be brought to a city council meeting. I'm happy to meet with members of the public one-on-one and answer any questions as well. But an oversight committee is a little difficult to answer at this time without a little more context to that.
Any more questions from the public? Please feel free to put them in our Q&A. Next question is, how far in advance do we have to make an appointment to review budget questions?
So the budget is posted online and it's available to any member of our public through the website, cityoflcentro.org. Questions pertaining to the budget can be sent to the city manager's office, and we will make sure that you have the proper response. We also, again, do mid-year and end of year budget reviews. Those are held publicly at the City of El Centro's council meetings as presented to members of the city council. And they're quarterly and ongoing reports as it pertains to specific projects. So if there's something of interest, I would highly recommend following our website to determine, or so you can review the upcoming topics on our council meetings. Any expenditure over the amount of $50,000 is required to be reviewed and approved by the city council. So it's openly discussed, and all those documents are posted on our website. And if there's a specific question asked to the budget itself, again, I would recommend sending an email to the City of El Centro City Manager's office, and I would be happy to ensure that you receive the proper response.
Next question is, why is the City of El Centro's sales tax declining by 68%?
So it's the amount in which we accrue. And Liz, I'm going to have to turn over to Elizabeth Fuchsin, our finance director, to assist me with that. We just had a meeting with our sales tax revenue group, and Liz, maybe you can help me with answering that question.
Yes, so the sales tax still increasing, but not at the same rate that our population increase. So we still have a decent forecast for the end of the fiscal year. We are doing good, but not as good as expected.
So Liz, if I understand you correctly, what we're saying here is that our sales tax dollars continue to increase, but not at the rate that's proportionate to the drain on our resources and the demand for resources here in the City of El Centro.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Mara, I hope that answers the individual's question. I'm happy to expand on that further if we need to.
Yes. Question, what is our current sales tax? What will it go up to? And how does that compare to other cities?
It's a great question. So currently we're at 8.25% sales tax. A half-cent sales tax revenue would bring us up to, or if the passage of a half-cent sales tax would bring us up to 8.75%. Very considerable to the city of Calexico, slightly higher than the city of Imperial, and very close to being on par with the city of Brawley. Much lower than surrounding areas in Southern California that are closer to 9% and some as high as 10%.
Next question is, where can we find the goals that are created for our city?
Again, those are posted on our website online. At the end of this program, we're gonna have a specific page to go to budget related questions. But as it relates to our goals and our driving vision for the City of El Centro, that can be found at the cityofelcentro.org on our website. And we'll have some additional information for you on our website under the budget to point you in that direction as well.
Next question, would there be a sunset to the proposed sales tax?
It's a little early for us to say. Right now, we are going through discussions on what the sales tax implications would be and how this will roll out. And that information will be shared at a public forum in the next few weeks.
Next question. This is a two-part question. I understand officer safety is important, but I was curious if there have been discussions about staffing efficiency during certain calls, such as traffic stops where multiple officers respond. Has the department ever considered approaches like shared vehicles or adjusted response practice as a way to help reduce costs and maximize available resources?
Yes, absolutely. So, as a former police chief, I can discuss this in depth, and I'll try to keep it very brief. We typically staff 4 to 5 officers on a shift, whether it be daytime or nighttime, and one supervisor in addition to that. If we looked at doubling up police officers and putting 2 per vehicle, which would make them safer in their work environment, it would really diminish our ability to respond to calls in a quick and efficient manner. So while on some occasions you may see 1 or 2 vehicles and sometimes 3 or 4, depending on the call for service, on a traffic stop, it's important to note that at any given time, those officers can be pulled from that stop and sent to a priority call, such as an in-progress crime or crime against persons. If you had 1 vehicle on a stop with 2 officers, that would greatly decrease our ability to respond in a timely manner because it really just divides our workforce. Ideally, every officer, at least during night hours, would work 2 officer vehicles for safety purposes. Unfortunately, our staffing just does not allow that at the present time.
Feel free to add more questions in the Q&A section. We'll give it a minute or two if more questions are submitted. We have a question. Is there a way to find out about these types of meetings other than Facebook? Where are these meetings posted?
So they're posted publicly here at the City of El Centro at City Hall, on paper here in the different bulletin boards around the city. One right outside of City Hall to the south of the city buildings that's available after hours, and there's some throughout the city facilities that are in the courtyard area next to the council chambers. We also do post this on Facebook and all of our social media, and all of our city council meetings, for the most part, are the first and third Tuesday of every single month. But there are some exceptions where there's conflicts of schedules and they have to be moved. But every city council meeting is published. It's published in advance as well as the agenda. So these would be considered public meetings, and they'll be posted in the same fashion.
And just to add to Mr. Sawyer's point, you can also sign up to receive our agendas directly to your email on our website. Just click on the tab that says Agendas and Minutes, and you can sign up, make an account, and they can be sent directly to your email.
Thank you for that, Maureen. I forgot about that.
And we have another question. Will there be more budget sessions with the public other than this one? Will there be any in person?
Yes, so our next meeting is scheduled for the next few weeks, and we'll have that posted very soon. That will be an in-person meeting at a regularly scheduled in person and at a regular scheduled meeting where the public can come and ask questions and feel free to ask for anything that they need to have to feel comfortable with this particular measure, including the question about the sunset clause.
We had a second similar question. If we have any other questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A section. We'll give it a couple of minutes. Seeing no more questions, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for taking the time to join us for this presentation. Before we conclude, I'd like to remind everyone that this presentation will be available on the City of El Centro's YouTube page and official website, www.cityofelcentro.org. Additional information on our budget can also be found on our website. If you have any further questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to contact us at publicinfo@cityofelcentro.org. We also encourage you to follow the City of El Centro on social media for future updates and information. Thank you again for watching, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.